Healthy disagreements on the internet. This is very, very tough to do well. The internet is a place where a lot of people don't disagree well. But here's actually the irony of the situation. If you learn how to disagree in a healthy manner, the internet can almost be your perfect training grounds because there are so many opportunities to get into disagreements on the internet. And I don't mean, going out there trying to fight people, but I just mean well-meaning disagreements. And that's because you can interact with people from every walk of life on the internet fairly easily. That's not too hard to do. And so here's the beauty of the situation if you can understand it. If you can practice disagreeing online well, it will develop your character as a human being exponentially. And you will be prepared to disagree with others online in a very good manner. Okay, so what I'm hoping for tonight is to give you some basic tools on how to disagree well online, and then also to tell you what to watch out for when somebody's essentially trying to troll you or they're not trying to disagree in a healthy manner. Okay, so that's kind of my hope tonight, to give you a little bit of understanding. And in order to start that, we are going to start with a video that I posted last night, actually, on the topic of Islam. And I want to use my TikTok video on Islam as a case study on how to disagree well, because it wasn't done well on this TikTok video, okay? And so I want to show you how to do it properly, all right? So we're going to use this as a case study. I want us to see how we can learn from this example. So here's a TikTok that I made, and this was when we were playing Valorant, and somebody asked me about Islam. Now, we're going to watch it twice, but what I want you to look out for, here's what I want you to try and discern, okay? What is my argument? What's the argument I'm actually making? What's my point as I discuss in this video?
Like Islam and stuff like that, how they also believe in Jesus. They don't believe that he was like the son of God.
Yep. In particular with Islam, it's because Muhammad, when he was writing the Quran, he wasn't aware that Christians believed that. Muhammad had a real problem with the polytheists of his day, and he was worried about a lot of people were worshiping false deities, fake gods. He actually thought that if Christians and Jews just read their Bibles and believed their Bibles, that they would think the same way he did. But he was mistaken because he didn't know Christianity and Judaism very well. He believed in Jesus, that Jesus came, but he did not believe that Jesus died on the cross for anybody's sins. And he thought Jesus was merely a prophet. And in fact, Muslims typically put Jesus as a prophet who is lower than Muhammad. There you go, guys. Okay, so that's the TikTok that I did. And I also want you guys to know that it was taken down within 24 hours for hate speech. Okay? I want you guys to know that as well. What do you think my primary argument is or was? What was the heart of what I was saying there? And what are the points I was trying to make? This is the key, I think, to getting into good disagreements online. Angie says, point that there is common ground. Very good. Ivory John, Muslims and Christians don't believe in the same Jesus. So while there is some common ground between us, there are some important differences as well. Very nice, Ivory John. Blessed by Jess, I think you were just educating this person on what Muslims believe. Geek says, you don't say the words "you're wrong." You use your words to explain your reasoning and why Muhammad was misunderstanding Christianity. Very nice, Geek for Life. That's a solid contribution. Slaya, you're informing him Islam is misinterpreting Christianity. Exactly. Connor says, I feel like you were trying to say that Muhammad didn't know a lot about Christian or Jewish faith and was ignorant about it almost. Clarifying rather than arguing. Perfect, guys. You guys are crushing it. Now, here's what I want you to look at. I got one comment over and over and over in the comment section, and I wish it didn't get taken down for hate speech because I would show you the comment section. It had over 400 comments by the time it was taken down, and there was one comment that kept getting brought up over and over and over and over again. And this is where I think we go wrong. Any guesses on what the one comment was? Listen, I'll pause at the egregious part. You ready?
Like Islam and stuff like that, how they also believe in Jesus. They don't believe that he was like the son of God.
Yep. In particular with Islam, it's because Muhammad, when he was writing the Quran, boom, you almost certainly didn't catch it. The number one response I got over and over and over again. Ivory John got it. Muhammad didn't write the Quran. And it wasn't merely Muhammad didn't write the Quran. It was this guy, one guy called me a bag of peas. One guy said, Muhammad didn't write the Quran, you bag of peas, right? I was like, man, I've never heard that before, but that's a solid ridicule, right? He called me a bag of peas. But I'm not kidding, guys. 100 of the 400 comments were, don't talk about Islam if you don't know anything about it. This guy doesn't even know that Muhammad didn't write the Quran. This guy can't understand that Muhammad didn't write the Quran, right? Vegetable insults, exactly. But here's my point. Here's what I wanted you guys to see, and I think you saw it. We tried to take down tons of notes on what my primary argument was. And what was my primary argument? Point to common ground. Muslims and Christians have a different understanding of Jesus. Educate on what Muslims believe. Explain misunderstandings, misinterpretations of Christianity. Muhammad didn't have a great understanding of Christianity and Judaism, etc. That was the main point. But what did everyone do? And this is typical in internet squabbles. They zeroed in on one error. I spoke in passing and just drilled in on that one error. That's all they did. There you go. Slaya's got it. Just to focus on a small misunderstanding. I was wrong about this, but that wasn't my point or intention with the video and what I was saying. I can tell you confidently that when I was speaking, verbally talking to this person, I didn't think in my head that Muhammad has written the Quran down. I didn't even think that when I was speaking to him. But I was trying to get certain information across, and I just said Muhammad wrote the Quran. Why? Because as a Christian, I believe in the Christian version of Revelation. And so it's natural to me to utilize my Christian understanding of Revelation when I speak to somebody about Revelation in general. So I used common language that also my listener would probably understand. And I merely said, when Muhammad was writing the Quran, blah, 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 blah. Here's the reason I'm bringing this up, guys. It is so easy when you are arguing with somebody to zero in on a single mistake they make in their statement rather than actually engaging with their argumentation. Instead of trying to understand what they're arguing, what they're communicating, we instead look for low-hanging fruit in the conversation and try to attack their small misunderstandings or misconceptions. Okay? Now, to be frank, the history of the transmission of the Quran isn't 100% clear. It's not like this obvious thing, especially as somebody who thinks about Revelation from a Christian lens. And so I was just using language that I thought the person I was talking to would understand, but everyone dogpiled on me because in passing, in 2 seconds of a 45-second video, I said, when Muhammad was writing the Quran, blah, 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 blah. Now, lest you think I'm merely defending myself and won't admit it when I'm wrong, I've done precisely that on the YouTube channel. I did a video on slavery, and then I had several criticisms on my video on slavery, and I went back and did a follow-up video correcting my mistakes on my slavery video. So I've done this before on YouTube, but on this specific topic, I think it was so instructive and so illustrative that I wanted to share it as a case study in how to disagree well on the Bible compared to how to not disagree. Now, here's what I want to bring up. I'm not attacking Muslims here. Okay, guys? I'm not attacking Muslims here. Why? Because I see Christians do the exact same things. And this is the heart of what I want you guys to see. Let's flip the tables for a second. Imagine the following happens. Somebody comes into our chat and says this: I have a problem with the Bible because Jesus says the wages of sin is death. I don't like that. I think the penalty for sin is too strict. John killed it. If your first response to this criticism is, Jesus never said that, bro, you are acting exactly how people acted to me when I posted this video. Do you see my point? If that's your first response, to attack the fact that Jesus never said that, rather than dealing with their argument, you are committing the same error. You are not contributing at all to healthy disagreement online. Why? Well, because you also believe what Paul wrote. And his basic contention is not with who wrote it or who said it, but his basic contention is with the fact that he thinks the penalty is too strict. And so you can correct him. I don't have a problem with you doing that. But just like Ivory John was bringing up earlier, it might go something like this. Hey, I hear what you're saying. I want you to know, just for future reference, that Paul wrote that. Jesus didn't say it. But we still believe what Paul wrote as Christians, and so I totally want to deal with your argument because that makes perfect sense. Do you see how that works? Now, I both corrected them, but I also saw what the heart of their argument was, and I chose to deal with it. I chose to interact with it. I chose to support a good discussion with them. And I think that's one of the most important keys. Blessed by Jess. Unfortunately, they missed the whole point of the entire video. Nailed it, Jess. And I'm going to get to that in a second as well. But you absolutely nailed it. They strained out a gnat and swallowed a camel. Rather than dealing with my entire argument, they chose instead to attack one thing I misspoke on and make their entire criticism about that. It's not dealing with somebody's argument. It's not actually trying to understand and help and encourage, okay? That's the problem. And that's what I want people to see because, again, Christians fall into this exact same behavior. So many people online, when they argue or disagree, utilize this behavior of attacking, nitpicking, looking for a misplaced word so they can hone in and strike like a missile without actually seeking to understand what they're saying and interact with them and communicate with them in the right manner. You know what? Another case study, a second case study to help. We've talked about my TikTok. We are now going to move to Pastor Tanner's YouTube comments section. The video he did that gets the most love of all videos. And let's look at the comments section on Pastor Tanner's video on mask wearing. And let's utilize it as a case study, right? And specifically what I want you to see here is there are statements worth responding to and statements not worth responding to. Okay, so here Paul said, "Fear God, not man, not wearing a mask, taking no vaccine. This world is over. Christians will be divided out of the rest. Soon choose. Don't fear man, fear the Creator." Okay, now I responded to him, and you can see I tried to take a somewhat neutral but affirming perspective. A lot of good ideas here. Thanks, Paul. I'm not saying, yeah, you're 100% right. I agree across the board. But I can tell where he's coming from is he believes he's sounding a good warning that people need to hear. And so I chose to respond. But let's go down to another one. Here's one. This one was recent, and I kind of went back and forth on responding or not. Joshua says, "Nothing is neutral. There is no such thing as spiritual neutrality. Give no foothold to the devil. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. COVID is a scheme of the devil. I love and respect my fellow brothers and sisters, whatever the position they hold. The church is the only thing that can defeat this, and our duty is to bring salvation to all who are under the spirit of deception and fear of this fallen world. The devil is the god of this world. He uses media, 6 corporations, all owned by major media outlets, news, magazines, online sources, etc., to entertain, lie, deceive, and rob you of your peace and security and identity in Jesus Christ. They censor all differing viewpoints until they drill it into your head that the devil worldview is the truth. COVID is satanic deception, plain and simple. It is a lie and perpetuated by the devil, who own and control all power and people in power and who run things behind the scenes. You will compromise who you are and what you stand for in Christ. You have to protect every aspect God has invested in you. Guard your heart and your mind. Put on the full armor of God." I think Joshua firmly believes what he's saying, and he articulated it very well. But there are several comments in here that make me feel that he's not going to be open to a dialogue or a discussion. Does that make sense? There's nothing wrong, Ian. I'm not saying that his comment itself is bad. I'm saying, like, if I was to try and get him to soften a little bit, I don't think he would. Some of the comments in here, like, if you believe COVID is satanic deception, plain and simple, it is a lie and perpetuated by the devil, who own and control all people in power and who run all things behind the scenes. This is a very, like, entrenched position or perspective that somebody has. It's going to be very, very difficult to convince this person of anything otherwise. I'm not saying he said anything wrong, but I stopped and asked myself when I read this comment, is this person going to be open to hearing what I have to say? Are they going to be open to learning from somebody who believes differently than them? And when the answer was no, probably not, I just decided to move on. And I didn't engage with this individual. That's the key, Jess. Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to point out. Is the individual open to learning, understanding, growing, developing? If so, it may be worth conversing about. But if not, it may not be worth conversing about. And you have to discern that for yourself. Let's go pick up some more isolated comments on other videos. Oh, yes. One just went up on my Apostle Paul video, and I still commented to them, but I didn't put a lot of time, effort, energy into it. This is the key of what I'm talking about. Samphonet Gamgee, very thoughtful contribution. You know too little to argue. Sit down and read first. Or, Keeping Watch 95, a giant quote block that he pulled from a website somewhere, obviously. When you get comments like this, you've just got to let them go like water off a duck's back and say, you know what? That's not going to generate healthy dialogue, healthy conversation. You're not going to make much progress there. Now, here was my response. Not sure where to begin with this one. People often learn through discussion and interaction, not merely absorbing textbooks. So no, I won't sit down and read first. Instead, I will continue to read and study while I continue to publish. That was my comment. And frankly, I probably spent more time responding to this individual than I should have. You can just see the kind of perspective that is coming across here. Not worth interacting with. You see what I mean? Not worth spending a lot of time, effort, energy focusing on. And that's the point I want to get at. In having healthy disagreements online, we need to learn to pick our battles. Now, I do want to get back to why I brought all this up. The case study of my misspeaking in my Islam video. Now, there's two things that I want you to understand. First of all, I didn't say anything wrong in that video in terms of the heart of the argument I was making. I pulled this from James White's What All Christians Need to Know About the Quran. Listen to what he says. He says, tradition says Muhammad did not control the speed or frequency of receiving the revelations from Allah that would comprise the document we know today as the Quran. So Muhammad didn't write the Quran. He was illiterate. But I also didn't want to say he was illiterate in the video because I thought that might sound pejorative, like I was attacking Muslims. And then I had a bunch of Muslims tell me he was illiterate, you bag of peas. And I was like, okay, so evidently that part is not considered a pejorative attack. Got it. So here, look how nuanced this is, guys. It's not 100% clear. Muhammad received the revelation of the Quran, but he did not write the Quran. The classical belief is that while its entirety was sent down in one night, Muhammad himself received it piecemeal over 22 years. And at first, there was a hesitation and periods of silence during which he suffered concern that what he experienced was not from God at all. In any case, the revelations began to outline the primary elements of the message Muhammad believed and he was being called to deliver. Listen to how similar this is to the video we watched. Amid the polytheistic worship associated with the Kaaba, he began to proclaim not a new faith, but an old one, needing to be reestablished. His was a message of pure monotheism, Tawhid, right? And I probably pronounced that wrong. Pure monotheism. What did I say in the video? Yeah, Muhammad had a lot of problems with the polytheism of his day, and he thought that Christians and Jews were monotheists and essentially on his side. Turns out Christians and Jews are monotheists, but Christians are Trinitarian monotheists, which as Muhammad began to learn that, he began to take more issue with Christianity. But that took time to develop in Muhammad's thought. Again, in passing, I said Muhammad when he wrote the Quran. Well, you can see that how it was passed down through Muhammad is not 100% clear. But here's my point. They chose a single thing to attack rather than interacting with the heart of the argument I was making. And we ought not to do that as Christians. That said, by implying that Muhammad wrote the Quran, here, I wrote this separately. I implied that Muhammad wrote the Quran. Well, I said it. I may have accidentally stumbled onto a sharp heterodoxy. And this might be why everybody interacted the way they did, why they were so quick to attack me on this. Here's the heterodoxy, guys. And this might make some sense why I was so criticized. Listen to this. Listen to this. The words of the Quran share the attribute of Allah in that they did not come into existence at a point in time. So I was saying, well, he didn't really write it, but he received the revelation of it. It's very similar. No. Muslims think the Quran is eternal, that it shares the attributes of God in eternality. To imply that anybody wrote it implies they came up with it, implies they invented it. And this is a strong heterodoxy. Listen to what they say. Surely the Quran, as a written document on the earth in Arabic, has a history and did not exist in that form in, say, the days of Jesus. But for Sunni Islamic orthodoxy, the Quran itself is uncreated. Another characteristic of the Kalam of Allah is that it is uncreated. Okay? Listen to this. This is a quote from a strong Muslim proponent. He has lied who says the Quran is created. Allah has stated to him belongs the creation and the command. So the creation is the creation of Allah, and his command is the Quran. In other words, the very fact that a person seeks refuge in the kalam of Allah proves that it is an uncreated attribute of Allah, for it is not allowed to seek refuge in a created object. The arguments used to substantiate this viewpoint are many, and we note that not all Muslims in the earliest generations held to it, but it has become the predominant orthodox view. And in many nations, even to broach the subject is to bring question upon your orthodoxy. Of course, it is argued that this belief is original and goes back to Muhammad himself. Abdullah ibn Abbas is said to have asserted, this means the Quran is not created. And Qadi notes, Imam Malik was asked concerning one who says the Quran is created. What should be done to him? He replied, he should be forced to repent, and if he refuses, his head should be cut off. Imam Ash-Shafi states, whoever states the Quran is created is a disbeliever. Okay, I won't go any further. But here's my point. I felt they unfairly attacked an off word that I made. And I think that's still true. But note how my misspeaking was a major stumbling block to my message. I want to go back to what Blessed by Jess said. They entirely missed the point of your video. Yes, but whose fault is it? It was my fault. Now, I do want to call people to be as gracious and understanding as they can when they're interacting with others. But I also don't get to say, well, you should bear gently with my mess-ups, because clearly that wasn't the point of my video. I don't get to say that, guys. I can't determine other people's reactions and behavior. I want them to be gracious and understanding and seek to understand the heart of my argument. But the fact of the matter is that I threw an unnecessarily stumbling block right in the midst of my conversation based upon my ignorance and or my misspoken word. Does that make sense? And so here's the conclusion I want to lead you guys to. First, if you're going to talk about stuff, know your stuff. Be right as much as you can. This removes stumbling blocks from people. It allows you to be heard. It allows people to understand what you're saying. And it's okay to be tentative and unsure in the conversation. It's okay if you say, look, I'm not 100% sure on this, but this is my understanding. What do you think? And to have a healthy dialogue. However, you don't get to hold others to that same standard when they're messing up. You need to know your stuff so that you don't put an unnecessary stumbling block. But when you detect ignorance in others, give them the benefit of the doubt and try to have a fruitful and productive conversation with them rather than trying to win the argument through a fallacious manner. You see what I mean? I want you to assume the responsibility of giving the best, most well-researched, understood representation as you can, while at the same time not demanding that from others. This is the same sort of thing as the leader of an organization who, whenever the organization succeeds, points to their team as the reason for its success. We had a stellar quarter last quarter. I want to thank the sales team. They did a fantastic job. They went above and beyond. They worked extra hours. I want to thank administration because you're giving away all of the credit when the company does really well. And then when the company has a bad quarter, this same leader steps up to the plate and doesn't blame sales, doesn't blame administration, and instead says, I take full responsibility for the bad quarter we had, and I want you guys to know that I am implementing plans, procedures, and goals so that we can improve next quarter. This is entirely my responsibility. I take full responsibility, and I want you guys to know we're going to have a better quarter next quarter. You see what I mean? You simultaneously take responsibility for all of the faults and shortcomings, and you give away credit whenever it's successful. That's the balance I want you guys to have, and it's the same when it comes to these conversations. Be as right as you can. Remove all stumbling blocks. I wish I could remove me saying when Muhammad wrote the Quran, because I inoculated a bunch of people to hearing the heart of the message. But by the same token, I don't want you to do the same thing when somebody misspeaks about the Bible or about Jesus or something like that. Instead, give them the benefit of the doubt and have a good conversation and a good discussion with them. I want to finish with the 3 logical fallacies that were used against me in this situation, in this case study, so that you will be careful not to use any of the same logical fallacies when you talk with others. The first logical fallacy that was used against me is what's called a red herring. And I pulled these from this website, thebestschools.org magazine, 15 logical fallacies. And then this third one I pulled from Wikipedia. I want you guys to know these aren't my definitions. A red herring fallacy is a distraction from the argument, typically with some sentiment that seems to be relevant but isn't really on topic. That's what they did. The heart of my argument was exactly what you guys were talking about. Muhammad adjusted his viewpoint on Christianity over time. He didn't really know what Christians believed right off the bat. That changed. And because of that, that's why he says Jesus is a prophet, but he tries to say that he's not God, etc. That was the heart of my argument, but they kept saying Muhammad didn't write the Quran. Muhammad didn't write the Quran. That's a red herring. It seems to be relevant, but it really isn't on topic, okay? This tactic is common when someone doesn't like the current topic and wants to detour to something else instead. Now, I want you to know, I don't think any of the people who left those comments for me were consciously doing this. We're consciously saying, I want to detour. I don't like what he's saying, and so I want to detour. This is a subconscious reaction, and so many people do it, and I want you guys to be able to avoid it as much as possible. This tactic is common when they don't like the current topic, they want to detour to something else instead, something easier or safer to address. A red herring fallacy is typically related to the issue in question, but isn't quite relevant enough to be helpful. Instead of clarifying and focusing, red herrings confuse and distract. The next argument that was used against me was ad hominem. A lot of people said, know what you're talking about before you say something, man. What they're trying to do is diminish my credibility and say that I'm stupid, I'm not worth listening to, etc. They're attacking the man rather than the argument. Ad hominem, when people think of arguments, it's often their first thought to think of shouting matches riddled with personal attacks. Ironically, personal attacks run contrary to rational arguments. Ad hominem is Latin for against the man. When you argue against the man instead of his argument, you're making an ad hominem argument. Okay, guys, the final argument is the argument from authority, okay? And I pulled this from Wikipedia. Is a form of argument in which the opinion of an authority on a topic is used as evidence to support an argument. Some consider that it is used in a cogent form if all sides of the discussion agree on the reliability of the authority. Other authors, however, consider it to be always a fallacy to cite an authority on the discussed topic as the primary means of supporting an argument. So whenever you say, expert so-and-so says this, or so-and-so is not an expert, don't listen to them, you're hearing an argument from authority. It's not dealing with the heart of somebody's argument, it's just saying this person is an authority or this person isn't an authority. Healthy discussions can be had on the internet if you will take the time to try and truly understand what the other person is saying, ask them clarifying questions, give them the benefit of the doubt, and then try to respond to the heart of their argument. Then we can have healthy disagreements and discussions online. Then we can have healthy arguments. And again, the internet is rife with the opportunity to have good, healthy discussions and to practice that skill. If you can learn some of these skills that we talked about, you are going to be well ahead of your peers in terms of learning and growth and development and interaction with others, because you're going to know how to discuss with people in a healthy manner. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that content. If you want to go deeper with us, please head down to the description, hit up the links to Twitch and Discord, where you can be part of this awesome community that we're building and be part of the discipleship that we're growing with together. Also, if you would consider hitting like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Take care. God bless. Bye now.